Hughes, thanks for joining us on VIP TV today, just a few days or a couple of days before you challenge Sam Maxwell for his WBO European super lightweight title. How important is this fight for you, Joe?
Pretty important, I think. Obviously, I've coming off the back of 2 losses. So it's sort of a, I guess, make or break sort of thing for me. Need to sort of get a win to get back in the mix of where I want to be. I think my last performance was probably the worst I've ever performed.
What, in Spain? Yeah.
In Spain, yeah. And I know why it was. I know why I performed so badly. So I've sort of put everything right, hopefully, and hopefully we'll see on Saturday. But obviously, it's very important for me. If I lose, then really where am I going to be afterwards? Sort of out in the wilderness a little bit. So fingers crossed. Obviously, if everything goes well, I'm confident I'll win. If everything goes well, if I perform, so just got to perform on the night of.
What went wrong last time that can't go wrong this time?
Well, it was all to do with the preparation, really. There's a few injuries and things like that. I don't really want to go into it because it just sounds like I'm making excuses.
That's fair enough.
So he beat me on the night fair and square. He was a better man on the night. He did what he had to do, and that's that. But I think this Saturday I'll be a lot better.
Yeah. Just looking at who you fought, you fought everybody. Jack, going back, when I first interviewed you before you fought Jack Catterall.
You
had the Upton win. I remember interviewing you at Bolton Football Ground, I think it was, and then Anthony Yigit, Robbie Davis Jr., Sando Martin, and of course that terrific European title win against Andrea Scalfo in Italy. No one does you any favours, do they?
No, definitely not. Like you say, I've fought a lot of good fighters now, and there's more than just those guys. And I'm pretty much 99% of the time I've been the away fighter as well, going to their backyard to fight them. But that's what I'm in it for. I haven't really had that many fights for how long I've been pro, but I've had a lot of big fights. Against really good fighters, some really good fighters. I think I've faced. I've got a lot of experience against those, that sort of caliber of opponent. I think that stands me in good stead for the future. But yeah, I haven't done it the easy way, that's for sure.
How are those fighters that are beating you? And I know this might sound a tricky question. Obviously, you're a fighter. You're a very good fighter. And on your night, you most probably believe you could beat any of them. But how are those names I mentioned who you lost to? Who is the best? Where you would have to be on 110% and show something you haven't shown before to beat? Who's the best out of them?
Well, there's a few of those fighters that I've lost to that I think I didn't lose the fights. So there's obviously those, but I mean, I think probably the best I've faced would probably be Catterall.
Really?
In my opinion, I think Yigit was very, very good as well. But I'd probably say Catterall.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that because you pushed him all the way as well at Bolton, didn't you? So I was doing that for Box Nation, that fight.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I do remember. Yeah, it was a long time ago now. And really, you never know after if I win this fight on the weekend. Put me up somewhere in the WBO. Obviously, he's been #1 with the WO for God knows how long. You never know. We might meet again down the line.
Yeah. Well, what do you think you might have achieved? I mean, you're 30 years of age and you're still a fresh 30. I know there's the handful of defeats, but you're fresh. Anyone who's seen you fight or in those losses will say they weren't beating an old fighter or anything like that. They was all beating a good fight, a good fresh fighter. What do you think you might have achieved had you had that promoter behind you from earlier in your career who could build you up into these fights instead of yourself and Andy having to just we'll take it. We need the chance.
Yeah, well, I think I'd be much higher position than where I am now. I think just being able to postpone fights when I've had injuries and when I've been ill and certain things like that, and just being able to having a promoter that was backing me, that rather than going into fights where I hadn't trained for a month leading up to the fight because my body hasn't let me, and things, and I've still took the fight because if I don't take the fight, am I going to get another shot? Just going into the ring with things like that, damaged shoulders, damaged ribs, damaged elbows, coming off few months after surgeries and things like that, which I wouldn't have had to do if I had my back in. Because I don't mind doing it the hard way, but it's hard when you're the away fighter as it is, and then you're going in there at 50% and stuff like that. Whereas it would have been nice if I had the back in. I would have been able to say, you know what, is there any chance we can move this fight back a month, or we can move this fight back 2 months, or something like that, and go into the fights I've had at 100%. I think, people would have a different view of me as a fighter. And I think, I would be on the verge now of, world title fights and things like that. But, that's life, isn't it?
Have you ever said no to a fight when the offers come in for one of these bigger fights?
We have. Some of them have been, just the wrong times and the wrong money and different things like that, or turned down certain fights to get other fights and things like that. But yeah, I've never turned down a fight in terms of the challenge or in terms of, the opponent or anything like that. There's been times when I have my coach has pulled me out, or, Andy sort of said, there's been fights where I haven't been able to shadow box in the lead ups to him. And Andy's, pulled me out eventually because of those. I was supposed to box Lewis Ritson last year, and an injury leading up to that one, I couldn't even shadow box. So going into a fight like that, Andy pulled me out of that one. But yeah, I'm not one to shy away. I'm definitely not one to shy away from a challenge. There's nothing, that sort of side of it definitely doesn't faze me, no.
Because when you were boxing on the A side, someone was putting on shows for you down here in Wiltshire. Was you boxing for next to no money or no money then, just to get the win and get an opponent paid?
Yeah, exactly. Very early on, when I was doing a few 6-rounders and stuff like that, it was all right. I could just about scrape the tickets to earn, a grand from it or whatever, which obviously turns into 500 quid or 400 quid by the end of it, after you've paid everyone and, paid for your training and everything like that. But yeah, a few fights, when I've won the English title, I boxed for free because the tickets that I sold covered what they needed to cover and there was nothing left for me. There was a few fights in between. I got to the stage where I was sort of well known enough that people wanted good money to fight me, and being able, I can shift 120, 150 tickets where I am, and that was just nowhere near enough. And it got to the stage as well where I'd been in a few big fights that if I was fighting someone no one had heard of, or if it wasn't for a title, that people weren't interested in coming then. So it was almost like I'm better known. I'm, I've been boxing at a higher level, and I'm selling less tickets locally because it was the wrong opponent that people wanted to pay to watch after they'd already seen me in higher profile fights. But yeah, I must have had, I reckon, 4 fights of mine probably where I didn't earn any money at all. But that's the business, isn't it? You've got to do that if you want to get anywhere.
Winning the English title when you never got paid, that sort of was the stepping stone to Catterall and getting these fights against Yigit, Robbie Davis, and eventually winning that European title, wasn't it? Yeah. So in that way, taking that gamble helped, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That was 100% the reason. With get that belt around my waist, and don't worry about the money now. Hopefully, that'll open doors in the future, and it did. So it was, it was well worth it. And just that's one of the things you got to do. People think, oh well, if you were an English champion as a professional boxer, you must have a bit of money. But
I hear this from boxers all the time, mate. They think people think you've got your English champion. They think, what are you driving around in that car? What are you shopping in Aldi for?
Yeah, exactly.
So Sam Maxwell, yourself and Andy look at all these opponents. What do you rate as Sam? Of course, he had that dramatic KO win last year, which sort of torpedoed him to fame, really, given that about 10 million people downloaded it.
Yeah. I think he's a good opponent. I think he had a very, very good amateur career. He obviously stayed amateur for a long time because he's actually older than me, but he's like the up and coming fighter in this fight, even though he's 2 years older than me, I think. But yeah, he had a really, really good amateur career, a lot of international experience. He boxed. He had a lot of experience in the World Series of Boxing, which is obviously 5-3, so it's a better base to be a pro than the usual person would have. 10 4-rounders or whatever. He's obviously fighting at a much higher level. So yeah, I think he's a very good opponent. I don't think he's shown as a pro yet as good as he can box to his potential, because like that knockout that the last 10-second knockout or whatever it was. He was losing that fight leading up to that knockout. And he was much better than that kid. I don't know if he underestimated him or whatever, or the shots he got hurt with early just, ruined his game plan or whatever. But I don't think he's boxed to his potential yet. I think facing someone like me, he's probably had plenty of motivation and everything like that. And it's been, obviously, I'm the biggest fight of his career by a mile. So I'm sure he's bang up for it. But it's, at the same time, it's a big step up for him. It's the stereotypical crossroads sort of fight, I suppose. He's coming up, in their opinion, probably I'm coming down, sort of thing. Who's still at the at the level of who's going to come out on top on the night, and we'll see.
And then finally, before we let you go, what's life like in Frank Warren's bubble there? I think you're all in. Is it? I don't know. You're somewhere in Docklands, I think, somewhere. Is it like Eddie's bubble where you're all locked away till tomorrow morning and you can only go to the gym and nowhere else, or you got a bit more freedom there?
Yeah, it's not too bad. We've been wandering around the hotel. Well, we're wandering around the hotel a little bit because we had to get a COVID test, and then we had to go and do a check weigh-in with the board at 4:00. So I haven't just been stuck in since we arrived yet. To be fair, we arrived at about 1:00. And they couldn't get us into the rooms till 3:00 anyway. So it's been a bit of a long day today, traveling up here. But it's all right. The hotel's nice and everything like that. And it's all been going all right so far. But we'll see how it goes the next few days. I'm sure it's going to.
And is your wife still boxing?
Pardon?
Is your wife still boxing? Did she box, your wife?
Yeah, she did. No, not anymore, thankfully. Since
Amy, your wife's name.
Yeah, Amy. Yeah. She was a national champion as an amateur, but no, thankfully she doesn't box anymore. I used to be such a mess, nerves and everything like that when she used to fight. But since we had the kids, that was when was my youngest born? 2016. So it's that since then, thankfully. Since just before when she got pregnant, no more boxing for her. Just leave it to me.
And Andy, your trainer, you must have him 24/7. He'll be either training you or around the house, won't he, I bet?
Yeah, exactly. He's on my case all the time. So, it's not too bad. We don't. We try not to mix the time out of the gym. With the thing. Oh, he's my father-in-law, obviously. If anyone realise. We do a pretty good job, I think, of not suffocating me with the boxing, if you know what I mean. So we try and keep things separate.
All right. He's a good man, Andy. Send him my best regards anyway.
I will do. I won't say you told him he's a good man though, but
don't tell him that. Don't tell him that ever. No, he's a good fella. I like him. I only met him a few times, but you can tell he's a proper boxing man and a good man.
Yeah definitely.
Joe, thanks very much for joining us today, for giving us your valuable time while you're in the bubble, and best wishes for this weekend. It's a fight that's the one fight on there where there is a potential banana skin.
Well, I think so. I think I'm the liveliest person on the B side, I'd say, of the card, the away side of the card. I think I'm the one that's come in, I think, in my opinion. So we'll see, but I think it should be a good fight, whatever happens.
Joe, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for your time, Steve. I appreciate it. It's good to speak to you.
And you.
For all boxing info, news and latest interviews, amateur and pro, across the north, click and subscribe. VIP Boxing Promotions. Also, Twitter, Instagram and Facebook.